Welcome to the Digging Deep ATV MX podcast with your host, two-time defending ATV Motocross national champion, Cody Jansen.
Am I on air? What's up, everybody? We're back. I'm your host, Cody Jansen, and welcome to episode 64 of the Digging Deep ATV MX podcast, presented by our title sponsor, CST Tires, available for purchase and in stock today at shop.csttires.com. I suggest the 20x6x10 Pulse MXR fronts and 18x10x8 white label soft compound rears. Pick up a set today at shop.csttires.com. I hope you enjoyed Am Ironman Part 1 because John Natalie returns to discuss the rest of his legendary career on this episode tonight. And let me tell you, it's everything that you were left wanting at the conclusion of the previous show. On this one, we explore the second half of the former multi-time champ's career, as well as complete anything we might have missed on the last episode. You'll hear about what winning aboard a Can-Am meant to him, about his rivalry with Chad Wienen, the birth of his own team, the Natalie Experience, for those of you who remember that, joining forces with Baldwin, his take on current ATV motocross, and so much more. I want to streamline the intro because you're really going to enjoy the conversation ahead, and I want to get you right to it. I had a blast sitting down with the Ironman for this one. Let's give a quick shout out to our sponsors and show them some love, guys. These companies are prioritizing, valuing, and supporting ATV racing by partnering with Digging Deep. So if you like what we're doing here, the best thing you can do is support these great companies. Major thanks to CST Tires. Go to shop.csttires.com today. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. PS, did you see my brand new YFZ 450R? I'm so freaking stoked. Thanks to Valvoline, SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Namira Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Impact Solutions, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, Forworks Carbon, DP Brakes, Gripped Gloves, Factory 43, Bike Strikes and Quads LLC, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Their clippers rock, their nose hair trimmer is amazing, and the new Lawnmower 4.0 electric trimmer is next level. Equipped with a light, a guard, a bunch of adjustments, and they are ATV racing supporters as well. Hell yes, I've been absolutely loving this thing, and you will too. So check out Manscaped. I wish I would have sooner. Get 20% off with free shipping by using code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Support all these great companies that support us, and for any products that fall through the cracks, click that Rocky Mountain ATV MC banner on our website to help us out. As we transition into the off season here, we both know you need parts and gear. No matter what off-road gear parts you need, Rocky Mountain ATV MC has you covered. So before you buy, click that Rocky Mountain ATV MC banner on our website. By accessing Rocky Mountain from our specific link, you get all your gear and parts needs met, while we get a percentage of what you buy on the back end. This is such an easy and convenient way to help us out. So click that Rocky Mountain ATV MC banner at diggingdeepatvmx.com to help us out while satisfying all your gear and parts needs this off season. We can't thank you enough for that. No new donors to shout out this week, but for anybody that is interested in possibly donating to Digging Deep, you can find those Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee donation links on our website. Again, for anybody interested in donating to support our efforts, and we thank you so much for that. Prizes for our top 10 in Digging Deep ATV MX Fantasy have all shipped. Items that have been claimed so far are Chad Wienen, Bryce Ford, Nick Janusa, and Max Lindquist autographed merchandise, as well as an SSI Decals custom graphics kit, a pair of CST Pulse MXR white label soft compound 18x10x8 rear tires, and a DID ATV2 X-Ring chain. We have some more items to go out, and no matter where you finished, there's hope because some random players are going to win as well. So stay tuned on that, and we sure hope you'll play along with us when the season rolls around just a few months from now. But for now, it's showtime. Now the 30-second board is up, it's sideways, and the gate is down. Time to dig deep. Let's go. All right, guys. Now, before we jump right into our part 2 of our I Am Ironman episodes, I have to say this is exciting because our listeners you just heard this legend on the last episode, but for us, this has been a long time coming. We recorded that first interview in February of 2020, all the way back when COVID wasn't even a thing yet. And there was so much that we still wanted to get to, but family comes first, of course. So coming to you, not from a hospital this time, I hope, Mr. John Natalie. What's up, John? Thanks so much for coming back to talk with us some more.
Hey, I'm sorry it took so long. Last time, I guess we didn't have a really good connection. And I've been saying that I wanted to get back with you. And just with COVID and life and kids and wives and all the other stuff that go on, we just wasn't able to find the time. But now we got a little bit of time. We can put it together and see if there isn't some more questions that we can get answered. Maybe even some things from the last podcast that we did where I don't know if you caught any questions or anything that the people might want to know that would be able to give them the information.
Yeah, I'm stoked that this worked out so well. I mean, originally, like I said in the last episode, I really didn't think that we were going to be able to make that thing work. And eventually, like, I had an epiphany one day. I was like, you know what, whatever it is, however much work we got to put in, whatever the result is, we're going to put the Natalie episode out because there was so much great content there. So I obviously, like you said, there was so many people that are like, well, you didn't get to this, you didn't get to that, and stuff like that. So obviously, that wasn't by design. There was, we were going to get to everything. So this worked out to have a part two. So I thank you so much for being a willing participant for part two here. And there was a great response to that first episode. I feel like we created all kinds of buzz. You had all kinds of people talking about different aspects of your career and such.
Yeah. I thought it was awesome. And one of the big things I'd like to say now is thank you to everybody out there. And I've said it before, every time on the podium, and I'll say it now. I don't care whether you're a fan of mine or a fan of Chad's or a fan of Joel's or who you're a fan of. You're a fan of ATV racing, and ATV racing has been my life for as long as I can remember. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys. And I know y'all can't be a John Natalie fan full time up front and be I'm going to be the number one guy, but it doesn't matter to me as long as you're there. That's what makes a difference to all of us.
Yeah. Awesome message there from John Natalie. And in the last episode, we covered the early stages of your career, John. John Natalie joins us tonight, brought to you by our friends at Rocky Mountain ATV MC, your one-stop shop for parts, gear, and everything in between to make your ride the best ride. Click that Rocky Mountain ATV MC banner on our website, diggingdeepatvmx.com today for all your gear and parts needs and to help us out. Now, on that first episode, we covered the earlier stages of your career. On this episode, we're going to focus on your time at Can-Am to present. We've talked about, obviously, the monumental achievements that you guys achieved at Can-Am. And it goes without saying that you are proud as can be of the first ever, ATV National Pro Class overall win for the manufacturer and the first and only premier championship for Can-Am in ATV motocross history. When you think back to those memories, what stands out most to you, John? What stands out most about that Can-Am period for you? I mean, you talked about on the previous episode that you kind of always wanted to do something different. You were one to, kind of maybe put yourself out there and try something that others wouldn't. When you think back to Can-Am and, there was some trying times and you finally got that thing to being, at the top of that class. What do you think? What stands out most to you about that whole period at Can-Am?
Honestly, when I first went to Can-Am, I went to Canada, and when I first went up there, I was able to ride the bike the first time. It was bone stock.
Okay.
And the first time I rode it, I actually broke it. And I was a little nervous. I was like, well, but then, what was great about it was it wasn't like, and nothing against the Japanese guys, but it wasn't like Japanese guys. I actually went to dinner that night with the owner of Can-Am. Okay. I mean, the president of Can-Am. You don't get to do that when it comes. And he said, hey, look, whatever you break, we'll fix, we'll make it better. It won't break again. And the next day we had new parts for it. And I was already riding it. It was fixed. There was a lot of bugs that we had to work out, but we got them worked out, and it seemed like they were going to be in it for the long haul. So I was really excited about that whole portion of it. And then to be able to, bring it back into the States and be able to be the first one to go out in a pro class with that bike. It was exciting for me. And I've had a lot of firsts in my career, like the first one to win Daytona, the first one on a Can-Am, just so many different firsts that I was able to do. I'm not taking any credit for it. I've had great mechanics like Casey, and I've had great sponsors. I've had great people behind me all the time that made my job a lot easier. So, but it was great to have all those firsts. There's a lot of things in my career that I get to look back and I say, I was the first to do that. I was the first to do that. And I was always about that. So I guess that was kind of my most exciting thing about Can-Am, was knowing that I was going to be the first one to bring this thing in.
John, let me ask you this. So during your first title in 2005, you were in a class of your own that season. Fast forward to 2011. You won 3 races that year. You bested the field by 8 points on your way to that second title. That was the first ever, ATV MX Pro Championship for Can-Am. Like we said, that was the first, and that was what you were king of, doing things, for the first time. Was that one sweeter than that first one? I mean, in 2005, even though, it was your first, it was basically never in doubt, it felt like. And with this one, it took years of hard work and getting to the point that, that bike was competitive and you had paid all your dues and you had to overcome some of the adversity that season on your way to that championship. So did that one end up meaning more after how far you've come, and a lot of time had passed too, where, in 2005, you probably thought you were going to go on a streak, and obviously you won WPSA in 07. But anyways, it just felt to me, I was like, I need to ask him if that second one was sweeter, doing it on the Can-Am, and then all the stuff that you went through from that first one to the second one, just thought to me, maybe that second one was going to be sweeter than the first.
This is going to be a little bit of a long answer for you, because I want to touch on the 05 championship first.
That was a long question, so It's fair. It's fair.
Okay. Well, see, in 05, it was really special to me because, and I'm going to say this, and nothing against D Manshak at Rage or anybody like that, because I don't mean it the way it's going to sound, because without my sponsors, I would have been nobody. Without D building bikes, I'd have been nothing. Without those people there, I wouldn't have been nothing. But I did it on my own in 2005. Like, I didn't have factory help. We didn't have all this money coming in. We had product, but we didn't have all the money coming in. I had to go against Suzuki. I had to go against Kawasaki. I had to go against all these guys that had all this money, limitless money behind them. And I went out and I beat them. And that felt pretty good. And in 2005, I mean, Christ, I beat Doug Gust. I beat Jeremiah Jones. I beat Tim Farr, Dustin Wimmer, I believe, was there. Mm-hmm. Travis Spader. I mean, I think Kramer was in there at that point. I can't remember who I was there, but some of the fastest guys I've ever seen in my life, I got to beat them all. Mm-hmm. And that was amazing for me. And now fast forward to 2011. Now 2011 was special in its own right, because one, it was the first year that we were able to win a championship on Can-Am. I had gotten hooked up with Casey and Johnny Leach, who was and is still an amazing man that has helped a lot of people, and he's done a lot for me in racing and outside of racing. Also, that year, I mean, I was leading the points. I had a good battle going. Third was literally out of the question at one point. Like, it was me and I believe it was Chad going for it. Both of us on Can-Ams. And the crazy part about it is we had a barn fire and my horses, got out, and we had to protect the horses and try to keep, the horses from getting killed by the fire. And I had gotten kicked in the arm and broke my forearm, or, a couple of bones in my arm. And right away, I immediately thought, crap, there goes the championship. It's over, Well, the very next day, I got a call. I believe it was Johnny Leach that called me. Actually, I think Casey ended up calling me too, and told me that Chad had broke his back. And I was like, well, wait a minute. My ears perked up. I was like, holy shit. Like, all I got to do is race and finish decent, and I can win this championship. So I literally called the doctor right after I got the phone with them. And I said, hey, you need to put this plate in. They're like, yeah, we're going to put it in. We got you scheduled for, 2 weeks or a week and a half. I'm like, nope, you got to do it tomorrow. I was like, what do you mean? I said, I need this tomorrow. I got to race. We got to make it happen. And I said, I got to race this weekend. He's like, what do you mean? You're not going to race? I'm like, yeah, I am going to race. And so actually it was Tuesday morning, I believe they took me in and we got that plate in, and I ended up racing on that Saturday. And if I wouldn't have raced that race, we'd have lost the championship. I'm not going to say it was more special but I'm going to say it was a different kind of special because of with me breaking my arm and Chad breaking his back, and
Okay.
it looked like all hope was lost for Can-Am. I mean, we're on a championship run with both Chad and I running out front, and all of a sudden we're both out. And I've never been one to back down from a challenge, so I figured, hey, let's get a plate on this thing and let's go racing. And and that's what we did. Everybody thought I was crazy, and nobody thought I could do it. And then, of course, the first time somebody said you can't do it was whenever I knew it was going to happen, because I love it when people say you can't do it. Me breaking my arm and being able to get back on and go out there and race, it was actually really special to me because of the fact of overcoming the adversity that I've overcome. That's why when little things happen, in life now, it's nothing, because I look back on times like that and think, well, crap, I broke my arm and went out and raced and finished winning a championship. There's nothing I can't do.
That's exactly what I wanted to touch on. Was, the adversity that you had to overcome to win that title. That was one of the reasons why I thought maybe that, that was another special aspect of that 2011 championship.
Yeah, it was. The one thing that I'll tell you that it helped me out, and this is just racing in general. Okay. But certain adversities like breaking my arm and having to come out and win a championship has helped me out so much in I'll call it the real world, where you actually have to get a job and you actually have to do something, because now it's to the point where I'm like, okay, well, this broke today. So what? We'll fix it and we'll go on. Or you run into so many little things that seem trivial compared to the things that I used to run into with racing. And, and we always made it work. And one of the other things too, is I've realized, and I've always had a hard time being the owner of the business of delegating authority and power. But I realized, and I know that from having the teams in racing, that it takes a whole team to make anything work, and that includes a business. So, I've learned a lot from racing over the years, and it's helped me through a bunch.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then to come away, with that title that year, especially like you said, it was such a gnarly battle between you and Chad early in the season. What an unbelievable circumstance, really, to see you both end up hurt almost at the same time. It's really, it's kind of a legendary story. And I didn't know if I was going to ask this, but we got a lot of questions about it, even dating back a year and a half ago when we were originally going to record this, but questions about the potential beef with Chad Wienen and yourself while under the Can-Am tent there back then. Wanted to ask you, was there any validity to that? I mean, I remember that run-in at Sunset Ridge that year. That was a story in itself. To have two title combatants under the same tent, though, which is obviously something that happens so rare in sports in general. That's got to be a tough thing to balance when you're got to battle to the death with your teammate.
Well, you and I discussed not this aspect, but a little bit that pertains to something like this before. And I'm different than most people. And you can talk to Joel about this. I was never threatened or upset, or I don't even know what word I'm looking for whenever Chad come on a team. One of my biggest problems was the fact that I would share anything with Chad, and anything that I found, I went and I found something that worked. I would go right to Chad. Hey, Chad, this works. Because my thing was I wanted to beat him on the track. Now, the other way around, he kept nothing but secrets. Anything they found, they wanted to make sure that they hid from me, which is not what I look at as a good teammate. And as far as beef, as being worried about him winning a championship, no, because if he won a championship, that was my fault. That meant that I didn't do my homework. I didn't do what I had to do. It's not Chad's fault that he beat me. It's just he worked harder than me. Now, on the other hand, there's some other things that went on behind the scenes that has nothing to do with racing, that part of racing, that really made me dislike Chad. And to this day, I don't have very good feelings toward him because of that. It has nothing to do with his speed, has nothing to do with his talent, because he's super talented, he's super fast, and he works harder than anybody I've ever met at racing. There's just other things that come up. Yeah, he's a champ. You can't take it away from him. Nothing, you can't ever say anything bad about Chad when it comes to that part of it. But I have my own reasons, and there's just things that need not be said and put out there. But there's reasons behind it, and very valid reasons. And it's not all just directed at him, but also his mechanic. We'll just leave it at that.
I understand. That's that. We'll get right back to the show, but now a word from our sponsors. And thank you for listening to these ads. Without these great companies, none of this would be possible. Show your support for the people who support us. Welcome to the team, two-time champ Joel Hetrick, who dropped the biggest news of the offseason when he announced his move to CST Tires. The CST takeover has been gaining momentum over the past several seasons, and now Joel Hetrick and his Phoenix Racing teammate Jeffrey Rastrelli are the most recent additions. The Pulse MXR tire has helped lead riders like Thomas Brown to race wins and 3 consecutive Quad Cross of Nations titles, Nick Janusa to the Pro Class podium, myself Cody Jansen as I rode my Pulse MXR fronts and white label soft compound rears to back-to-back national championships in the Junior 25 Plus class, and the most recent additions have us thinking a Pro Class national championship is on the horizon for CST tires. The Pulse MXR tire, available in soft and standard compounds, offers the highest level of traction, most predictable cornering, and superior wear characteristics when compared to the competition. Visit shop.csttires.com to join the CST takeover today, or prepare to be beat by someone who did. Joel Hetrick, Jeffrey Rastrelli, Nick Janusa, myself, and so many others are believers in CST tires. Are you? CST Tires, where passion meets the ground. You already know we're Team Blue Crew here at the Digging Deep ATV MX podcast. Whether it's second all-time winningest, 7-time and reigning ATV MX Pro Class National Champion Chad Wienen, or 6-time and current XC1 Pro ATV GNCC National Champion Walker Fowler, it's clear the podium-proven Yamaha YFC 450R is the winning choice of sport ATVs. This unprecedented success for the YFC 450R, its unrivaled quality and performance, and the undeniable fact that Yamaha is the leading OEM supporter of ATV racing has created a Yamaha takeover within the sport quad market. Better yet, Yamaha's Blue Crew Racer Support Program is back and even stronger for 2021, meaning Yamaha riders are about to cash in on higher payouts and more prize opportunities, including a chance to win a brand new YFZ 450R. For more info, head over to YamahaBlueCrew.com, follow them on social media at Yamaha Outdoors, and check out Yamaha's full proven off-road lineup at YamahaOutdoors.com today. For over 150 years, Valvoline has led the charge by being dedicated to constant improvement and innovation across all disciplines of racing. Valvoline has sponsored some of the greatest names in motorsports, and for the better part of a decade, I've been fortunate enough to be part of the historically great Team Valvoline. From my commuting vehicles to small engines, race quads, and everything in between, I trust nothing but Valvoline in all of my equipment. I've experienced increased function and durability as well as a longer life expectancy thanks to Valvoline's array of products and lubricants. Since 1866, Valvoline has been focused on bettering your experience, whether on road, on track, and everywhere in between. Upgrade to Valvoline today and check them out at valvoline.com. SSI Decals is a name synonymous with ATV racing, synonymous with big-time success, and absolutely synonymous with the best-looking decals around. An offshoot of their parent company that was established in 1947, SSI first took shape from owner Ian Harris's passion for ATVs. With what started as just making numbers and decals for riders like Chad Wienen, the company quickly took off, and today you couldn't imagine ATV Motocross without SSI Decals. The graphics maker and designer now supports all the top teams in ATV Motocross, as well as teams and riders racing GNCC, Work Series, Pro Motocross and Supercross, Canadian Pro Motocross, short course off-road trucks, UTVs, snowcross, and oh yeah, 6-time NHRA World Champion Clay Milliken. No project is too big or too small for SSI Decals, making your identity stick with championship level graphics. Head over to SSIDecals.com today and then maybe call the doctor because things are about to get sick. The Digging Deep ATV MX podcast is brought to you in part by DID and their range of championship winning chains. Powered by technology, DID chains are designed to give you the greatest strength to weight ratio, making them the optimal chain for racing and giving you a championship level edge. DID has been driving championship-winning race programs since 1933, chosen by champions such as Chad Wienen, Joel Hetrick, and myself, Cody Jansen. Champion above the rest is DID's 520 ATV2 chain, with those same design principles and materials being used throughout their entire line of products, including their on-road category as well. Pick up a DID chain today at your local dealer or reputable online e-tailer. DID, what drives you.
We are proud to be partnered with Numira Technologies. Since 2001, Numira has led the charge in the ATV and side-by-side market, covering more applications than anyone else in the industry. Numira's advanced piston technology uses a NASA-exclusive aluminum alloy that helps to reduce expansion rates, that allows for tighter tolerances and leads to higher overall engine performance for your machine. For more information about Numira's wide offerings of pistons, rings, gaskets, and industry-leading top-end repair kits, visit your local dealer or online at www.numira.com. Numira Technologies, pistons with an attitude. We are pleased to be partnered with Bronco ATV and UTV components. Bronco has been an industry leader in replacement hard parts and accessories for all makes and models for over 15 years. With a catalog that includes a full line of electrical components, engine internals like rods and cylinders, all the way down to suspension parts and bearing kits. Bronco is your hard part source for whatever you need for whatever you ride. Available exclusively through distributors around the world. Visit your local dealer or online at broncoatv.com. Forworks Carbon's innovative lightweight products include top-notch seat covers, carbon fiber and plastic hoods, gas tank covers, exhaust shields, shock guards, and much more. Whether you have an ATV, UTV, or snowmobile, Forworks has the goodies that will improve your ride and make you salivate. We trust Forworks for increased function and a sexier look, and you should too. Forworks Carbon, always working hard to bring high quality and innovative parts to the market. Check them out today at fwcarbon.com.
So you guys do go on to win that championship in 2011, and in 2012, we, as you touched on, battling Chad in 2011. Now you battled him again in 2012. He was on a different machine, not teammates anymore. You were attempting to defend your title, obviously, and you won 3 more races that year. You fought your tail off. You ended up finishing second to Chad. Hard fought battle. And then in 2013, that's when you started your own team in the Natalie Experience, right? So tell me about that and what led you to do that, because people wanted to hear how and why the Can-Am thing ended. We heard a lot of those questions the last 2 weeks. And then I wanted to hear, kind of what it was like to transition from going from that factory ride to doing your own thing. I was always intrigued by that.
But, I think that what happened with Can-Am, what I was told by Can-Am, was the fact that they were going to pull out because they weren't selling enough bikes, which is something I can believe. They weren't, ATV racing, they couldn't sell the amount of bikes they needed to sell to pay to have the team, which is fine. And I've always wanted to continue racing. I didn't want to stop. In fact, I'd be racing today if I could. But switching to your own team is a big deal. And plus, with having kids, at that point, I had my second kid, so it was tough. And anybody that has kids will tell you, and I'm a family man. I love my kids. So there's a lot of time that is spent with the kids instead of being on the bikes, instead of working on bikes. Switching back to Hondas, there was a lot of changes in sponsors and suspension stuff and some other things that went on. And if I had it to do over again, looking back now, it would have been a different story because, and I'm going to say the only way in the house, a lot of times I'll blame myself for the way I'm riding or not training hard enough, put all the blame on me and not look at the bike and not look at the little things on the bike that can make a big difference. And when I look back now, I'm like, well, shit, I should have did this. I should have did that. And I'll try little things on a bike I have at the house and it works way better. Like today, I believe I could take a Honda and I can go out there and be faster than those boys on a Yamaha just because I know some things I could do with that Honda now that I used to do back in 05 and that was lost by the wayside because of certain advice I was given by certain people. And I started to doubt myself, I guess, on what was going on because things started to go backwards in the handling and just stupid little things that happened. And not to mention that I wanted to help other people. I wanted to be able to help people. And starting the Natalie Experience was how I could bring some people in and help them and get them introduced to the sport and introduced to people around a track and just share the experiences and the experience that I have so that they can maybe skip some of the mistakes that I made along the way and go straight to having a better time at racing.
Yeah. So that was something that I could understand because when you start your own effort and you can run whatever parts you want to run and whatever. Like that freedom is a great thing, I'm sure. But at the same time, running your own team, being your own boss, having to fund the whole team yourself, all that stuff, obviously it's almost like the burden outweighs the, the freedom that you have or whatever.
Well, it does, and it's not like a Chad team where you get tons and tons of money and tons of help from a factory, because I had nothing. I had no factory that was coming in. Honda wasn't giving anything. So I didn't have any of the Honda experts there. I didn't have any suspension experts from Team Honda there. I didn't have linkage experts. I didn't have all that to choose from. And
Sure.
So it made it harder for me because I had to find the side people. And and I'm not saying they're not experts, but it's just that it's not they didn't do it as a full-time job. These are people that just come in to try to help me and do their best for me. And we did what we could. And it was hard to compete with a full-on factory Yamaha race team.
And you did that again. So that was 2013. You did that again in 2014, I believe. And then you joined forces with Baldwin for 2015. And I was a pro rider at the time, but as a fan at that time too, like I thought that was just a super rad marriage of you joining forces with Baldwin, riding underneath that tent with all that legendary knowledge and experience and expertise. It had to be almost like rejuvenating for you coming off of your own effort. Now you're doing Mark's thing. And I mean, for my money, like there was no better bike than Mark's at the time, but that was just it just felt to me like this monumental, like alliance, at the start of 2015, like that was amazing.
Yeah, it was really good. And there's some issues in there. I mean, Mark's a great dude. He can build one hell of a motor and reliable. He builds reliable stuff, so you don't got to worry about it blowing up. And he's a good mechanic. I mean, there's a lot of things that where Mark and I didn't click on certain things with suspension settings or some other little things that just happened along the way. The one big problem that Mark and I had, and I don't say it's Mark and I's problem, but he was so busy with everything else, because for him to be with my stuff, I'm not paying him, 150 grand a year that he needs. So he has to be building other people's bikes. So he's constantly got 30 people coming into him all the time. He couldn't put the amount of time into me and him as what we needed. You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah. I've always thought, I don't know how Mark takes on that workload that he has and juggles everybody that he's got going on at one time. So you come out the first race working together with Baldwin there, and you win the first ever Daytona ATV Supercross inside Daytona International Speedway. Talk about what had to be one of the biggest highlights of your career.
Being able to come out and win the first ever Daytona was amazing. It was like a high that you just don't get anymore. And I mean, just driving into the place was amazing. You come in on those high banks and you come in through all the infield and you get to see all those seats and everybody out there. It was unbelievable. And to be able to just be the first one. I mean, there is no other first one to win Daytona. Like, I don't care how many people win it. I was the first. I'll always be the first. I have the first trophy. I have the first boogie board or whatever it was that they had there. I was the first guy to ever win Daytona on a four-wheeler, and nothing and nobody can take that away. So that was one of the biggest highlights of my career, I think, is hey, I can tell people, yeah, I won Daytona Supercross. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was special. I mean, I just remember going in there for the first time and thinking, like, we're racing inside of here, I mean, it's unreal opportunity for ATV motocross. And I said it in the first episode, but you were the king of those big one-off winner take all races. It just seemed like you always brought your best to that kind of event,
Yeah. I thought about that a lot too over the years, and obviously the man upstairs is taking care of me. And I always believe that and I don't think he ever helps anybody win, but he makes sure that you're safe and you're taken care of. And he's always watched over me and kept me safe and helped me to, one of the big things I always ask right before the race is to help me make good decisions so that I don't hurt myself or anybody else, because I never wanted to hurt anybody else. So I was always able to make the decisions I needed to make to win the races and not get anybody hurt. So I was lucky or great on that aspect. And, like the first ever under the lights at Bill Balances. I won that.
Yep.
The Great Outdoor Games. I won that. The first Daytona, I won that. First one to ever win on a pro race on a Can-Am. First one to ever win a pro championship on a Can-Am.
Yep.
I mean, there's so many different things. It's unbelievable how many firsts I've had. And it's, when I sit and look back on it, I've never been one to dwell on the things that have happened in the past. Like, I don't have my championship bikes, and maybe I should have kept a couple. I wish I would have kept a couple, but I don't. I've never looked at it like that. I've always looked at it as that's what I do, and it's fun and it's great and I love it, but it's not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Who I am is just John. I'm just the guy, hey, let's go to dinner, or, let's go ride our bikes over here, over here, let me help you push your bike off the track. Or I don't put my pants on any different than anybody else. I am not any better than anybody else. And if there's one thing that people can take out of this, it's no matter where you are or what you're doing, you're never any better than anybody else. And you're never, you have your own thing. You might be a great singer. You might be a great actor. You might be a great racer. But in my opinion, you're not a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
The only ones that I think are superstars are the heroes that have died in wars, or the ones that have died as police officers, or the ones that have died saving kids out of burning homes. Those are the superstars. Mm-hmm. Because if there's anything that COVID has taught us this last year and a half, is we don't need actors. We don't need racers. We don't need football players. We need ambulance drivers. We need nurses. We need doctors. We need people that can build cars. We need people that can weld. We need people that can grow food. Those are the people we need. Mm-hmm. And these so-called superstars that I see nowadays trying to tell us all how to live, they need to understand that we should be the ones telling them how to live, because they forgot where they came from. And that's one thing. Point being is, I will never forget where I came from. I was poor growing up, and we didn't have a lot as a family, but the one thing we had was each other, and that's how I'm going to keep my family.
Yeah. How awesome of a take is that? Because I think that's one of the things that makes you so different. A lot of these, athletes in general, whether you're talking our sport or other, like that sport and them as an athlete is what makes them who they are to them, right? Like there's no separation. And you're saying, hey, I'm just John, but I'm like really good at racing a four-wheeler. And that makes you different than most.
Yeah. And what was great is, and I still can't grasp the fact of signing autographs. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are never going to understand what it's like to sign an autograph. Mm-hmm. I mean, for somebody to come to you and say, John, here, will you sign this for me? As I'm looking at it, as like, well, shit, what do you want my signature for? It's just a piece of paper, for God's sake, or a poster or whatever. But to them, it really means something, and that means more to me than anything. And people have often asked me, what's the best trophy or the best race or whatever. The best thing I've ever won was being people's champ. That was the best thing I've ever had. I got the one year I got Kids Choice Award at one of the nationals. That was better than any championship award that I've ever gotten. Mm-hmm. Being the Kids Choice. I mean, that means that these kids look up to you, and they thought that you were the best. These and some of these kids may even be in the pro class now. I don't know. I don't know all who voted for me, but mm-hmm. it was. I can't explain to people how awesome it is for people to look up to you. It's amazing. Well, it's a chore. I mean, if you really care, mm-hmm. it's a big responsibility.
It takes a lot of effort, but I always thought of you as the guy that was going to take a minute to stop and talk to that little kid, or give them a high five, or sign something for them, or whatever, fan, little racer, whatever it was. You always gave that time, and it showed, because like you said, people's champ. I mean, you're always a fan favorite. You always will be. But like you said, to your credit, it takes a lot of effort to do that.
It does. And you know what is, I don't know if it's really the effort to do it, because to me, I do it without even thinking. Like, right. I love to talk to the kids, mm-hmm. but to be that role model, because listen, I'm no better than anybody else. I got a bad mouth. I swear. I get upset about things. I get mad about things and that I shouldn't. And to be able to control that mm-hmm. takes a lot of effort, because it's easy to blow up and show your butt, so to speak, but it's hard to keep your cool, especially in the heat of racing conditions and racing emotions. because there's a lot of times when I really wanted to blow up and I didn't, because of the fact that I knew that there might be a little kid watching, and I want him to understand, this isn't the way to go. You got to be better than me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there. And I guess it wasn't like, I didn't mean it like, it doesn't come natural. It's just that giving people time when you don't have time, like
right.
That, like race day is your business day. Like that's your work day. And you just always found the time for whoever needed that time from you. Like that's why you'll always be a legend in this sport. So wanted to be able to touch on that. So you win Daytona, like you said, one of the biggest accomplishments of your career. You're on top of the world once again. There's, like you said, and I had this literally written in my notes, there's only one first ever Daytona winner. So that's pretty special. And then it wasn't long after that you suffered an injury that ended that season for you.
Yeah, I actually broke both my wrists.
Yeah.
I screwed up over a jump and just had a brain fart, so to speak, and broke both my wrists. And, honestly, I've never been the same since. Actually, today I was running a jackhammer and my right wrist got so messed up. I was like, man, this is all stemming back to, I think it was 2013 when I broke my wrist. It was Ironman.
Okay.
And ironically enough, it was at the Ironman.
Yeah.
I broke both my wrists. I tried to finish the race. I couldn't. I went and got them x-rayed and had a few bones broken in each wrist. And we still tried to finish out the season, but I couldn't hold on to the bars right. And ever since then, it was been a struggle. It was a struggle trying to even hold on to the bike.
So did that almost end your career, like right then and there? Or were you determined, I guess, to kind of go out on your own terms later on?
Well, I've never really officially retired, just so you have that out there.
Okay.
But it got to the point where I started thinking again about my family, and I was like, hey, I got to do something, because that's one of those rude awakening things. Well, hey, if you're hurt, you're done. There's no more money coming in to feed your family. So I was like, hey, we're going to start this business. My wife and I started a business, and neither of us really knew a lot about. I mean, I know I'm really good at running equipment and doing that kind of stuff. But we knew nothing about the paperwork side of it. So we just dove in both feet first, sold basically everything we ever owned, and bought the stuff that we needed, and got this excavation demolition business going. And it really took off. And as it was taking off, I had no time to practice. So it was kind of, you can't go to these nationals now with the likes of Chad Wienen and Joel Hetrick and those guys. The speed that they're running, you have to be able to ride. And I wasn't able to ride like I needed to. So I wasn't able to perform where I needed to be. So I kind of started to step back and step out of it.
Yeah. So 2016 was your final season. And it's pretty impressive because you grabbed a few podiums, 3 podiums, I think, in your final season. I guess, like you said, you're not retired yet, but the last season that we saw you at the ATV Nationals, so to grab 3 podiums in the pro class in your final season was pretty impressive. But you were still in the mix throughout. You didn't return for 2017. Did you know, like at that time in 2016, that was going to be the end, or
No,
did that just kind of happen?
Yeah, I didn't know. One of the, and I guess you could say problems, which is good for us, but it was a problem for racing, is our business really started to take off.
Okay.
And we had no time to do anything but work.
Sure.
And that kind of took away. And I thought, well, hey, I'll work this year, get it all squared away. And then next year I'll go back to racing. Well, then the business grew more. And we actually started another business. So now we have 2 businesses we're working. And I'm like, wow, it's all, we'll just get these things going. And then obviously with COVID hitting and all the other stuff that's happened along the way, I mean, it was hard to find people to work. You can't find people that want to work anymore. Unfortunately, this day and age, the people think that they're worth $1 million before they earn their first 100, so it's hard to run a business and keep it going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask you, like, after, literally decades of racing ATVs at the highest level, I was going to ask you if it was hard to walk away, but it kind of just happened. And you already told us that you didn't identify as John Natalie, the, professional ATV motocross racer. You just identified as John. And it just so happened that you were really good at riding ATVs. So maybe it wasn't that hard to step away. Like in 2017, you weren't at the races anymore. Did you find yourself missing it?
Yeah, no, it was hard.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
super hard.
Okay.
It's still like, even today, I'm dying. Like, I want to ride. If I go to a national, I have, I guess, PTSD.
Okay.
It's unbelievable. I can't stand going to. It's a double-edged sword. I can't stand going to a national, but I love going to a national.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I need to be out there.
Yeah. Well, we discussed that with, with Doug and with Joe when we had them on. Basically, like, when ATV racing was, your life for so long, life can be hard when you seemingly like lose that purpose and that identity. And I know that's not what it was for you, but it was like your favorite thing to do, I'm assuming. So
Right.
it had to be hard to lose that.
It was super hard. And like I said, one way that I was really lucky is, and I don't know if I would say it was the way I was brought up, if it was the people I've been around. I don't know for sure, but like I said, it wasn't who I was. Like, it was what I did. It was what I loved,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't who I was.
Sure.
I
Yep.
didn't identify as nothing but a racer.
Mhm.
I always had something or somebody around me that kept me grounded. And of course, putting my faith in the Lord is one thing that helps a lot too, because I know, and this is going to sound weird to all the people that think I'm a Bible thumper or whatever. I've even talked to him and said, hey, if it's something that I'm able to do, give me the chance to go back and do it.
Mm-hmm.
So he hasn't told me no yet. So you never know. You might see me out there again.
Hey, that was the perfect segue into my next question, because I was going to ask you, over the past few seasons here, since you left ATV racing, I heard plenty of rumors regarding potential returns. Ultimately, it hasn't happened yet, I guess. But was there any like truth to some of that? Like, did a return actually come close to happening? As the #1 podcast in ATV racing, it's only right that we partner with the industry leaders in suspension tuning. Insert Impact Solutions. Impact Solutions is a full-service ATV and side-by-side suspension center specializing in the revalving and service of your motocross and off-road suspension. With over 25 years of elite-level knowledge, experience, and testing with riders of all ages and ability levels, Casey Greek, Jay Goebel, and the Impact crew strive to exceed clients' expectations for service and setup. Impact Solutions is the official Elka Suspension Service Center of the United States, offering unmatched product knowledge and experience. Whether you're in need of service, parts, warranty, sales, or technical support, Impact Solutions has you covered. Head over to impactsolutionsatv.com or give them a call today.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
The following message is brought to you by Manscaped.com. The Manscaped engineering team has outdone themselves this time, creating the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, now available for purchase in the US and Canada. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, an official sponsor of the Digging Deep ATV MX podcast, with this exclusive offer of 20% off and free worldwide shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. I'm one of the first people to try the new 4.0 and I am blown away. This thing is next level. What sets this trimmer apart from all the rest? The Lawnmower 4.0 gives you the ability to turn the LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. It features a new multi-functioning on-off switch with travel lock for those of us who like to travel. And my favorite, the new trimmer allows you to customize your trim with 4 different guard lengths, an upgrade from its predecessor that only featured 2. If you're listening, you know that good tools are a must, so wait no more to get the best tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com by using code DIGGINGDEEP20. The Digging Deep ATV MX podcast is also sponsored by DP Brakes, a longtime supporter of ATV racing and the world leader in sintered brake technology. DP has been dominating the ATV world for decades, supporting the best four-wheeled racers on the planet. 2021's impressive lineup includes Joel Hetrick and Jeffrey Rastrelli of the Phoenix Racing Team, myself, Cody Jansen, and my back-to-back national championships, Baldwin Motorsports, Ford Brothers Racing, Nick Janusa, Wesley Wolf, and many more, including all of the top 14 GNCC Series pros, led by the champ Walker Fowler, Bryson Neal, Cole Richardson, Jared McClure, and Chris Borich. These top riders continue to appreciate the high performance and impressive durability that their DP brakes have to offer, products that ultimately help place them on the top of the podium. Available at www.dp-brakes.com. Purchase at your local dealer or message the show for their contact info today. What are you waiting for? Join the best ATV riders in the world on DP Brakes. 15 years into the brand's existence, Factory 43 is back with us and continuing to make huge waves in the ATV world. For the second consecutive season, Factory 43 is the official aluminum parts choice of the Phoenix Racing ATV team, providing their state-of-the-art Evo Nerf bars, MX-style front bumpers, and grab bars for some of the fastest riders on the planet. If you're in the market to upgrade your Nerf bars, bumpers, or grab bars, head over to factory43atv.com to see their full line of products available for all makes and models. Want to be just like Joel Hetrick and Jeffrey Rastrelli riding with Factory 43's industry-leading products? Head over to factory43atv.com today. Did a return actually come close to happening?
Yeah, it's been close a couple of times, and just getting to the point where I can get in shape. I mean, I still got the speed. I went out and rode with Joel and did some laps with him, and I can, I still got the speed to run with him, but I just don't have the endurance. And that's one of the things. If I come back, I don't want to be out there, running up front for 5-6 laps and then falling back, and it's just not what I want to do. And then people are like, well, come out and run this class. Come out. No, if I come back, I'm running pro strictly, period. That's what I'm going to run. And you never know. I mean, if I can find a way to get my lazy butt in shape instead of sitting in an excavator and dozer and skid steer all day long, then we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm putting a gym together right now, actually, at our house.
Okay.
And we'll see what happens when I get this gym together.
So you're definitely not closing the book on that chapter, which is exciting for any ATV motocross fans, obviously. You have done some racing since you walked away from the national scene, right? Like you did a little ATV stuff. You did some of that indoor stuff out there. So you haven't totally been a stranger, which is awesome because like in two-wheeled motocross or whatever, like we all see so many of our favorite riders like end their career saying like they don't like riding anymore, like they don't enjoy the sport anymore. That's obviously not the case with you. Like you love it, you'd still love to be doing it, you still love riding, all that stuff. And I love to hear that, as a legend of ATV racing, still loving it like you do at having done it for 30 years or more than that.
Right.
More than that. That's a cool thing for people that love the sport like I do.
Yeah, it's really weird or odd to me that people say they get burnt out or whatever, because if there's somebody who's going to be burnt out, I should be burnt out. and I'm not burnt out. I mean, not only have I raced for 30 years, but I mean I rode forever before that. You know what I mean? Like I was always on a bike. I mean, we used to pack lunches literally and go out and ride all day long whenever I wasn't working. So it's just because and I guess that's one of the reasons why it's kept me so grounded, because it's just something I love to do. I just happened to be good at it, and I was able to get paid to do it and get to meet a lot of people. There's a lot of really cool stuff I got to do.
Yeah, that's the dream. That's the dream, right? Like that's what so many little, younger people grow up again. Like it doesn't have to be our sport, but you grow up, dreaming about being able to like do something you love, whatever, and get paid for it. And you kind of got to do that. Like that's awesome. That's everybody's dream, especially in this sport.
It is. And what's sad is right now it's not looking that way for the guys coming up. And I'm really disappointed in that. And a lot of people talk bad about WPSA and so on. We went over to the WPSA and there's people, well, this, that, and the other thing. And they jetted out, but they showed us what it could be with the right marketing and the right things going on. And now I'm not saying anything against the promoters group. They do a good job keeping this thing going. They've kept it going for 50 years or whatever they've been doing. So, hats off to them. But when the WPSA stepped in, they didn't make it all one dimensional. They brought in the 4-wheel drives. They made different things. And all of a sudden, that's where the factories came back. They were like, well, hey, our 4-wheel drives are our biggest sellers. So let's have them. And then, oh, well, hey, look at this. There's actually people that are watch it's really cool to see these big sport quads go out there and do the motocross. So I think that's one of the things that brought it back. And then once WPSA died, that side of it, the 4-wheel drive stuff kind of died off. So they said, they kind of moved to the side-by-side stuff, and that's where their big sales were at. And you got to look at it from a business standpoint. From the factories, they're in it to make money. If they're not selling four-wheelers, then they're not going to be there trying to sell. It's not race on Saturday, sell on Monday anymore when it comes to that.
Exactly. And yeah, like WPSA did a good job of making ATV racing look as cool as it actually is, like it was a show, it was an event with them. And like they did a lot of good things. And yeah, like you can argue that they kind of set the template that, you wish somebody could kind of take and run with. But honestly, in the moment, like with the landscape of the way everything is, it's kind of like everybody's just grateful to have what we have right now. And, hopefully it can find a way to get better. John, as we near the completion of this thing, I want to do some mop-up duty on some things like you referenced earlier, some things that our listeners asked about following the first episode, as well as some like listener questions dating back to February of last year that, we never got to because we never got to record this segment. So there was a lot of intrigue about the Pro Quad Stadium series in the early to mid 2000s. I know we posted about that a little bit on our social media pages. Talk about that racing a little bit, and then like what it was like to race in those huge stadiums, the big baseball stadiums and whatnot. And how does that championship rank for you? We had a listener ask that exact question, like how that championship ranked for you in your list of accomplishments.
Yeah, that championship was huge for me. I mean, I had to race out there with freaking Corey Ellis and Tim Farr and, Dana Creech. I mean, there's one name that you haven't heard a lot. That guy was amazing. I mean, he could do things with a quad that nobody can do to this day.
Honestly,
and, he was the original pioneer of ATV freestyle. And, him and Wes Miller, when they got together, they really pulled off some really cool stuff. But being out there and it was a whole different atmosphere because a lot of that stuff was in California, Las Vegas, Nevada. A lot of that was on the West Coast. I was never out there before. So it was amazing. And then when you get into those stadiums and you go out there, it was a monster truck rally is what it was, a monster truck race. But then all of a sudden they see us come out and hit these big jumps. And I'm telling you, you couldn't hear your bike. The people would just go insane. And that's what we need, is that kind of stuff back again to be able to build this, because like you said before, WPSA put us in a good light, made it look cool. But when these people see it in person, it is unbelievable.
It is.
I mean, I had Ken Roxon. We went to the Edge of Summer race, and Ken Roxon was sitting in the whoops, and I believe it was Thomas Brown and I just went through the whoops. He followed me back to my pitch. He's like, in typical Ken Roxon fashion, "Hey man, that was awesome. That was really cool." But no, he was hurt then and he couldn't ride. He said, "I never seen nothing like that." He says, I can't believe you guys went through those whoops as fast as we do. He's like, you guys are insane. And he kept calling us insane. And then Thomas and I both hit this big double that none of the bikes were doing. Okay. And they were going to take it out. And they're like, and Thomas and I were like, "We'll hit it." We went out and hit it. And then the bikes finally went out and did it. So they're like, they were dumbfounded. I mean, these are, some of the top guys in dirt bike racing were dumbfounded by us. So if you can impress those guys, because those guys, it's hard to impress. I mean, look at what they do. They're amazing.
Exactly.
And when you can impress them, it's something. And when they see it in person, they're like, "Holy shit, this is something."
Absolutely. I mean, how many times I guess I've said so many times on these episodes, like those riders like that, when they see professional ATV racing, they never discredit it. The motocross two-wheeled guys that might hate on ATVs, it's never the top tier guys, because they see how gnarly it is when you see it in person. It's only the guys that like don't truly know what a professional ATV racer is capable of that, right, poo-poo, ATV racers at its top level. Cause like what you guys can do at the top level of the sport is, I mean, how could you not think it's freaking gnarly, right? Like,
like I said, even me, myself, going back and watching Joel or Chad or Nick Janus or any of these guys, or the Ford boys, my boys, when I go and I watch them, like, holy shit, these guys, this is insane. Right. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute, I do that. You know what I mean? I got to think, you mean I can do that? You know what I mean? It's when you watch it, it's a whole different story. Even when I was racing, even when I was at the top, even 2011, when I'd watch even an A class go out and these guys are flying around, I'm like, holy shit, these guys are fast. And you look at our times, we're 5 seconds a lap faster, or 6 seconds a lap faster. I'm like, shit, I wonder what we look like,
Right. Yeah.
like it's unbelievable to watch. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. And in regard to that era, getting into my next question here, we got a couple questions regarding your training regiment in 2005. You talked about so much about that. You said that, your next level speed that season was somewhat due to your equipment upgrade from seasons prior. But what about your training regiment? Because you were a machine in 2005.
Yeah. What's really funny about that is my training regimen was rough. I mean, I lifted a lot of weights and I ran a lot. I mean, I had a picture of Doug Gust on the treadmills because he was the man I needed to be.
Okay.
So because he was the guy. I mean, he was the man. He was an animal. Mm-hmm. And if you could beat him, you could win the championship. So
oh yeah,
he was the one I set my sights on.
Yeah, in 2004 he won a record amount of events, at that time. So and then you come out and basically won up everything he had done the season prior in 2005. Right. So that was pretty impressive. Okay, so now if my memory serves me correctly, you raced dirt bikes at one point in the midst of your career, right? I think professionally,
Well, I snuck into a professional race that nobody knows about.
This is the story I was hoping that we could tell. Yeah.
I was able to sneak in. I rode somebody else's bike. They couldn't qualify. And I just happened to be fast enough just to make it in. And I was able to qualify. I wore, my gear down, my goggles, and wore his jersey and everything. And I was able to qualify and got him in. And unfortunately, the first moto, his bike broke right away. So we couldn't get to see what he could do. But I was able to get him in, and I can recall in qualifying sitting on the freaking line, and it was a Kawasaki that was beside me, and I was just sitting there looking over, and he was to my left, and I'm looking over at his bike, and I thought his mechanic was going to beat me up, seriously, like threw a fit. Like, what the F are you looking at? Like, standing between me and the bike. And I'm like, holy shit, this is so different than ATVs. Jeez. Like, so different. Like, those guys would rather slit your tires than see you come off the line. And I was nobody. Mm-hmm. He didn't even know who the heck I was.
Right.
And it's like the camaraderie and family orientation that's behind ATV racing is amazing compared to that. And I'll tell everybody all the time, I was really fast on a dirt bike. I was never good. Mm-hmm. But I was really fast. There's a big difference between being good and fast. Mm-hmm. Like, I was fast, but I'd crash a lot.
Okay.
Now I had some friends that are good, and these guys are fast and good. So, and I'm not able to compete with them. And back then I was able to do a little bit because I raced. I think I took off for a while and actually raced dirt bikes for a while. I raced Loretta Lynn's in the B class and did pretty well down there. So,
so what year, John, would that have been where you you kind of got that rider in? What year? Did you have any idea? I know we're not good with years. We went over that in the first episode.
With years.
I'm just curious on the era.
It was in
what kind of bike was it?
I was on a Cannondale.
I thought so. So then must have been 2000-ish.
I was going to say
99,
late 90s,
late 99. Yeah.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. In my notes right here is it a Cannondale story? So yeah, that is what I thought. So, okay. So you rode, back to the 4-wheel side. So you rode a lot of, artwork worthy ATVs. I don't know how else to say it, but some awesome ATVs in their day. Right. If I asked you your favorite one, what would you answer?
My favorite one for looks or just favorite overall?
I mean, you could go either way. I would probably say function, but you can give me one of each if you want.
My favorite bike back in the day. Now, I'm not even going to say it's the best looking or even the best handling, but my favorite bike that I love the most, and it's hard to say love the most. I mean, my favorite bike, honestly, was probably the Can-Am of all time.
Okay.
We had that thing pretty dialed in, but let's go back to just my favorite bike of all time that was mine that I loved. I had a 92 Banshee. In fact, I think you posted a picture of me looking all stylish on it. That was my favorite bike ever.
Okay.
And we would switch it from TT to motocross and everything else. But it was just, that thing was just, I don't know why. I don't even know why.
Is it is it sentimental value basically?
I believe that would probably be what it was. If I could find that bike, I would buy it back in a heartbeat.
Shoot, that's awesome to hear. I think we all have that like kind of first special machine to us, like we all had mini stuff and whatever, but like we all have that bike way back in our history that is one that will ever be like a favorite to us. Okay.
Hey, not to slow you down on that, but did you notice that haircut that I had in that thing?
It was nice.
Picture?
JR Hines weighed in. He said you never aged. He said you look the same.
Oh, Jesus. Well, I appreciate that. I got a little less hair now.
Right. But the face was, I mean, you could have just dropped that picture and showed it to me anywhere, anytime, and it was the John Natalie back in the day.
No shit. Yeah, that's awesome.
Funny. Okay. Fiercest rival, if you had to name one.
Boy, if I had to name one.
And you raced just about everybody, John, at one point.
I mean, it's a toss-up between Doug and Joe. Joe, I would say fiercest would be Joe, because boy, was he a rough man. Like, he's good. He was good at he could take you out and make you think it was your fault. Like, he was just good at what he did. And he was rough. I mean, he knew how to ride. He was fast. I mean, when you're that fast and you're that good at what you do, and the way he did it, he was dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not dangerous as in like hurt you, but just, what I mean? Just dangerous as he was tough to stay with.
Well, and that time, like 05, 06, 07, like that era, 08.
Yep.
You guys were you were at your peak. He was at his peak. I mean, it was like Clash of the Titans back then, because I kind of thought of you guys as the same way, like gnarly, weren't going to give an inch, like it was that. Those are awesome battles back then.
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem with some of the things, is not giving an inch. I mean, there's sometimes I should have given an inch and I might not end up in the hospital, so it's I just all my life, and even to this day, my wife gets mad at me because I'm not afraid of anything.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, she's afraid of snakes and whatever. I have yet to find anything that I'm afraid of, and it's not. I don't think it's a good trait. I think it's a bad trait because it can get you hurt. You know what I mean? Like in my mind, if a lion comes running down the road, I'm going to punch it in the nose and knock it out. You know what I mean? The thing's going to eat me for lunch. But in my mind, I'm dumb enough to stand there and wait for it. It's like, it's better to be afraid of stuff. And I'm not, and I gotta learn. The only thing I'm afraid of is man upstairs. And I don't really have any reason to fear him, because I'm doing what I think is right. And I think we're going down the right path there, but even he's not going to protect me from a lion.
Right. I didn't mean to cut you off, because you were going to comment on Doug yet.
Yeah, well, because I said a toss-up between Doug and Joe. Doug was very fierce just because he never quit. Like, you could put 30 seconds on the guy, and you look down at your tire for 1 second, you look back up, and he's beside you. It's like,
here he comes.
How did you do that?
Yeah,
like, just never stopped. Like, you thought you had him buried, and he was digging his way back out. I mean, and he never got tired. I mean, the guy was an animal, and he could ride anything. He reminded me a lot of myself. He could jump on a freaking anybody's four-wheeler and go out there and do well. And there's not a lot of people that can do that.
No, he was a machine for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if this will be like, if this is the same question, maybe you don't have one of these memories. This is, I remember a question from from a year and a half ago. We had multiple that asked about your, any racing feuds that stood out in your memory. Did you have any like fights with other dudes or anything like that, that stands out, or was that not a thing?
That really stands out. I mean, me and Joe went mouthing a couple times to each other, threatening to fight each other. And, me and Doug had some run-ins. Doug and I Doug wasn't aggressive person. I was always aggressive. I still am to this day. Doug wasn't an aggressive person. So it was, we argued or protested each other or whatever. The only, I guess Josh Kramer and I, it was an unspoken rivalry between us. Like, I'd hit him and he'd hit me, and then I'd wreck him and he'd wreck me. And it was just one of those things. And then finally he said, that's enough. I'm not touching you no more. And then it just never happened again. It was weird, because I was very, I always had to get you back. If you hit me, I'd come back and hit you harder, and it's just the way it was. And again, not smart, because I could hurt myself or somebody else. So I just want to let the listeners out there know, don't do it. It's not smart. I wasn't smart when it came to that.
Right.
I should have thought more.
Similar around, like along those similar lines, where do you get your adrenaline fix nowadays?
Oh God. I still ride, and it's crazy because now I'm riding pit bikes too. We do pit bike races and you wouldn't believe how exciting that is. I mean, little wee tiny track, little wee bikes. And what's really great about it though, is the guys that I race with. No, it's just a little local track, but
okay,
we run into each other, we run over each other, we shoulder block each other out the track, and everybody laughs, and even when I crashed this last weekend. I raced a bone stock CRF 110 against all their damn thump stars and stuff. And I ended up winning one. I don't know how I won it, but the other one I got, I don't know, fifth or something, but I probably wrecked 10 times the whole thing. Just, and of course I'm racing the wife's bike. So whenever I go down, I use my body to block the bike. So I don't put any marks on the bike. So I'm beat up and the bike's fine.
Yeah.
I know people were worried about the bike, but it's fine. But there's an adrenaline rush here, and I still ride. I mean, I still get on my dirt bike and ride, my 4-wheeler ride. I've always been blessed that usually everywhere I show up, somebody shows up with a 4-wheeler and they're like, hey, take it for a ride. So, I get to ride a lot of different bikes. So it's awesome that way. And I got my kids are racing now too. So there's a lot of adrenaline there, believe it or not.
You got all kinds of stuff going on. So what advice, just a few more, I appreciate you being so gracious with your time. What advice do you wish you could go back and give yourself? Or what advice would you give, up and coming rider today? I guess what I was getting at with that first one is if you could go back in time and, give yourself a little nugget of info to benefit later on. Anything come to mind there?
One of the biggest things is the balance between you and the bike, because I think I touched on this earlier. I used to blame myself for a lot of stuff, where if I would have taken a look at the bike, on little things, I could have been faster. Well, and some people have it the other way. Some people are like, it's all the bike and it's not them. You have to find that balance between the two and say, hey, there's some things we can work on the bike. There's also things I need to work on myself. One of the biggest things that I've seen is fitness. If you're going to be a racer, you got to be in shape, not only so you can finish races, but if something bad happens, you have to make sure you're in the shape that your body can take it. I mean, there's been a lot of times that I've crashed and gone to the hospital, and the doctor says, well, if you weren't in the shape you're in, you might not have made it. So it has a lot to do with not only finishing races, but also keeping yourself healthy.
Yeah. Nowadays, for sure. I think so many people take their training to, they take it so seriously, take it to another level. Like you gotta do that to compete, let alone, be healthy if something does go awry. So, that's great advice there. If you could change one thing about your career, would you? And if so, what would it be?
I've often thought about that too. And I really don't think there's anything that I would change about my career.
Okay.
I mean, of course you want to go back and you want to make championships happen. You want to make this happen, but it's made me who I am today.
Exactly.
If you go back and change things, it might take me down a different path. And I love the path that I'm on now.
I would have bet all the money I have that was the answer we were going to get from you. So I'm glad I asked it. How closely do you follow the sport today, John? Do you still follow it pretty closely?
I do. I still follow it pretty closely. I watch all the races that I can online, and I check your page all the time because you give really good updates, and I try to watch it a lot, and I try to pay attention to the guys that are in there and what they're doing. And believe it or not, I've had a lot of people call me for advice, and whenever they call, I answer.
So you worked with the Ford boys, obviously. You referenced that you're still, pretty tight with those guys. So you worked with Bryce when he was younger. Now he's a star himself. Is this what you expected for him? Is he kind of blossomed into an AMA ATV pro?
Oh, for sure. I mean, let me start by saying the Ford boys, Cody and Bryce, both are like family to me. I mean, okay. I've watched them grow from little snot heads to big snot heads. You know what I mean? I mean, literally they've grown up before my eyes. And I love them to death. I mean, you know, I think that I've learned a lot from those two, as much as they've learned from me, and they've helped keep me young too. And we'll leave that with that. And as far as Bryce, it was inevitable. I mean, the kid is just got ridiculous talent. One of the big things that I wanted to make sure of with Bryce is that he skipped a lot of the stupid crap that I did. and you know, and I'm not gonna lie, they can have anything they want. Okay. Whatever they want, they get. And that's hard coming up as a kid. Those kids are good. I mean, if you didn't know exactly who they were or the racing area, you'd never know that they were in that position.
They're awesome kids.
Yes.
They're awesome young men. Yep.
And it's hard to find that kind of stuff. And Cody is and for those two to get along like they do, it's amazing because
it is,
you know, Cody being the older brother, he was always, you know, faster. And then Bryce started to come up and started to beat him. And Cody still was right there all the time. Hey, you know, let's do it, Bryce. He had his brother's back all the time. And Bryce always has Cody's back.
Exactly. So John, when are we going to see Bryce break out and win one of these things?
Well, if I get my way, it'll be next year. I mean, you know, my only regret is that I don't have the time to spend with them, both of them, because I can still make Cody faster. And I know that I can, Bryce has the speed to win right now. There's no doubt in my mind.
John, you were at one of the races this year, right?
Yes.
And
I was at Pleasure Valley.
And I was told that, you know, Cody benefited from you being there.
Well, that's good. And, you know, a lot of times these guys just need that stable. Now, don't get me wrong. John Ford and Robin, they're amazing, but they're mom and dad. You know what I mean? Sometimes they just need that other thing there in their life, in their confidence, like kind of like what Casey and I had. You know, they need that talk right before the race. They need that push right before the race. Say, hey, you got this. You can do this. What do we need to do to make it better? And it helps out that way.
Bikes, Trikes, and Quads LLC has been supplying riders with aftermarket components from the industry's top brands for over a decade. With over 80,000 products in stock for your ATVs, UTVs, metric and HD motorcycles, dirt bikes, and snowmobiles, Bikes, Trikes, and Quads LLC can tend to all your power sports needs, from hard parts to riding gear. Bikes, Trikes, and Quads also offers hard-to-find used parts for your vintage dirt bike, ATV, three-wheeler, or snowmobile. Use discount code ATVMX at www.btqllc.com for 10% off of orders of $100 or more. We're grateful to have Bikes, Trikes, and Quads LLC digging deep with us. Thank you, BTQ LLC. We are proud to be partnered with Gripped Gloves. Gripped is an ATV rider owned and operated brand with the rider in mind and the goal of keeping costs affordable. The Michigan-based family operation recognizes riders' desire to showcase their identity. Owner David Payne's love for eccentric colorways and crazy patterns shows in his product, something not often found in the work of big manufacturers. Here to push stereotypes and limitations, Grip's drive is to produce a glove with cool colors and designs that won't break the bank. With comfort and quality as key motivators, the family affair is constantly working on the next more innovative and improved glove. Get a grip on life, join the Gripped movement, because no one wants a bland glove. Check them out today at grippedgloves.com, that's GRIPT gloves.com, and use discount code DIGGINGDEEP10 to save at checkout. Just like the sport of ATV motocross as a whole, our Digging Deep community is brought together by the love for racing that we all share. Our sport is compiled of many great people, and leading that charge is the Launderville family at Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply. This racing-owned family business is a steel and concrete supplier serving the entire United States. Launderville Steel is a full-service steel supplier of new and surplus steel, aluminum, and stainless steel products, headlined by their 4130 chromoly tubing and plate used in the building of chassis for ATVs and UTVs, off-road truck racing, late model dirt and pro tractor pulling series, drag racing, and more. Launderville Steel loves their racing just as much as we do, but don't forget about their concrete division as well. With over 25 years of experience, the concrete division can supply everything you need to complete your next business or personal project. Their central Midwest location enables LSC to easily serve customers across the United States. For a quote, additional info, answers to more of your questions, or to talk a little racing, head over to laundervillesteel.com or give them a call today. We are proud to be partnered with yet another racer-owned company. Thank you, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply. Thanks for listening, and remember to support our partners. Now back to the show. Here on Digging Deep, we've discussed, current AMA ATV Pro Class racing to the nth degree, including how stacked it is this year, how stacked it was, this past year, obviously how great the racing has been. So when you try to compare like today's racing, when you look at today's racing and compare it to when you were racing, John, how does it stack up?
You want to know my truth? The truth?
I do.
Because I might sound a little harsh on this.
Well, I knew that you were going to have a passionate take. That's why I wanted to ask the question.
Right. Now, don't get me wrong, and not taking away anything from these guys nowadays, but in my time, we had Chad Wienen, we had me, we had Joe Bird, we had Tim Farr, we had
the names, yeah, never
Dustin Wimmer.
Yep.
How many champions do we have in one race? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We had tons.
Oh, back then,
back then we've had tons of champions in every race. Yep. At any given day, there could be one of 6 or 7 guys that could win. Mm-hmm. Now, you know who's going to win. You got a 50-50 chance of who's going to win it. And that's no offense to anybody else. Did Joel and Chad just step it up beyond what everybody else can? I don't know. I'm not there racing, so I can't call that out. But it's not – and I'm not taking anything away from Chad or Joel because obviously they whooped my butt today. But it's not as hard for them to have to win a race because they know, okay, he won the first moto. All I got to do is make him make a second, a mistake in the second moto, and I can win the overall. They know what they're up against every week. Honestly, Cody, I don't know what it is about the sport right now. It's crazy because the top 2 have a battle, and then you got like the top 4. Well, I'm telling you, if Bryce is going to be up, there might be a top 3 next year. If Bryce can keep his head on straight, he's going to be up there with those guys. Mm-hmm.
Well, and the thing is, like, what makes it, and it was 100%. It is 100% different than what it was in your heyday. There's no arguing that, obviously. Right. But there's Joel and Chad right now. But then if you were to exclude them, like, yes, the battle for the win is a two rider deal right now. Right now, there's no arguing that. After that next battle of like 5 dudes reminds me of what it was like for you guys in 05, 06, 07. Now, again, they're not champions, but the fact that you don't know who's going to be 3rd or 4th or 5th or whatever, that's what reminds me of back then, if that makes sense. Because it definitely makes sense. Because in 06 or whatever, you didn't necessarily know who was going to be on the podium every weekend. Right. Now, the way that, it's kind of the same. You don't know who's going to be 3rd. And that's a fun thing to watch. Like for a lot of years, we knew who was going to be on the podium, just didn't know how the order was going to be. So maybe this is like the next best thing, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. I hope that these other guys find more speed and can get up there and run with it because it is amazing to watch. And if that battle, that 3rd through 5th or 3rd through 10th battle was up, so it was a 1st through 10th battle,
it'd be that much better.
Oh my God, it would be amazing. And so I hope those guys find the speed to get up there. And that's what I want. I hope people understand that I'm not taking anything away from them because
of course
they're all fast and they're all great riders. Mm-hmm. But I want them to get up there with the other 2 so that it makes it better for everybody. For the sport in general, it will be better.
Oh, of course. Like I feel like I think that we've talked about it a ton, that group is better. Just, I think those top 2 continue to get better as well, like almost at the same pace. So, but we've talked ourselves blue in the face on that. I think I got 3 more questions here. So you can choose to answer one of these or both of these or none of these. I don't want to put you on the spot, but who was the fastest rider who you saw potential in, but they never really made it? Or did you ever have a rider that kind of reminded you of yourself?
The second question is simple.
Okay.
Well, there's 2. Well, Michelle, obviously my wife, now obviously not in pro class, but reminded me so much of me. The way she rode it was ridiculous. And obviously it's because she was around me all the time, or whatever, but she rode a lot like me. And
Okay.
the other one is, I think Bryce has rides a lot like me. He's a little taller, so he looks a little dorkier when he's doing it, but he rides a lot like me. I can see a lot of me in the way he rides,
Okay.
especially a younger me. Like when I was 20, 25, he rides a lot like the way I did then, which is what I'm trying to get him out of, because he's got the speed. He just needs to get the brains and smooth. That's what he needs to get.
Okay.
And as far as somebody coming up that I thought, I mean, man,
I didn't even want to put you on the spot. Just somebody maybe that you saw that was like, dang, that guy has tons of potential.
And this goes back a ways, and it's somebody that I thought would have been a championship contender and this might be weird to some people, is Pat Brown. Pat Brown had a lot of talent,
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, who should have been a champion and never was. And I had mentioned him earlier in this podcast, was Dana Creech.
Oh yeah.
I don't understand why that kid was never champion.
So
he
talented.
had speed, he had talent, he had the backing, he had everything he needed. I just don't understand why he didn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if I had to answer that question with somebody, it'd be Dana Creech.
Can we give an honorable mention to Alex Waskob? Because what he did, I thought, being a dirt bike guy and like getting on a quad and being as good as like you had him riding and like what it felt like no time, like that was impressive to me, John.
Well, there's another kid. It kind of makes me sick because he has so much talent. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I didn't really have to do much with him. I mean, he was just fast. His brother, Ash, is the same way.
Really?
Just, they can both jump on four-wheelers and go fast, and they are super fast on dirt bikes.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
But Alex, I so wish he'd have stayed with it, because I do believe he could be in the top of the pro class.
Oh, he was gnarly again, like the way that I learned it. I knew it at the time was he was like just hopped on a quad and he was podiuming pro-am. Like that's crazy.
We had like 2 months that he rode, and then all of a sudden he's and he didn't even know all the ins and outs. He didn't know. I mean, I remember Mount Morris.
Okay.
He was kicking butt, and then somebody run into him and spun him out. But he definitely could probably still, right to this day, jump on a four-wheeler and go run up in front in the pro-am class.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, so we'll end with this. I always like to ask our guests how they want to be remembered as a racer. So how do you want to be remembered, and what legacy do you hope to leave behind, John?
The biggest legacy that I hope to leave behind is that I was somebody for the other riders. I wasn't there just to benefit myself. I've always been there for the other racers to help the sport grow, to do whatever it takes to bring more sponsors in. So one of my biggest things was, and anybody that's been around me will tell you, I always wanted to do whatever it took so that the kids that looked up to me that were racing would have something to look forward to. And it's difficult to look at the way at the state of affairs now in it, because I don't think they have that to look forward to. And to tell you the truth, there's really nothing I personally can do except advocate and go on shows like yours and podcasts like yours and just say the things that make it great, because the only people that can actually help the sport grow are the promoters. And unfortunately, I'm not seeing out of them what needs to be done to make it any bigger.
Well, John, I think that you kind of hit it on the head, because there's so many people that look up to you for obviously your accomplishments, the man that you are, all those things. But your word has so much merit and has so much weight that when you come on here, show like this or another show or whatever, and you are able to, speak your mind on your views and what made you successful and how you accomplished the things that you did, and on track, off track, giving the time to the kids, all the stuff that made you. I think the trickle down effect of that has more impact than you probably know, and you still, like, doing this right now to this day is helping the sport. I truly believe that.
Well, I hope you're right. I mean, I've always done, I mean, even while I was there racing, I have always, uh, anything that was asking me, hey,
Mhm.
do you want to go to this restaurant to advertise, to do autographs, or do you want to go into Walmart parking lot? We've taken our rigs, we've gone to schools and
Mhm.
done and sat at schools and did things, and just whatever it took to try to bring people to the races.
Mhm.
And I loved it all. I mean, I
Yeah.
thought, well, heck, whatever it takes. I would leave early. I would take days, literally days out of my work week to go and advocate for the sport. And I think there were at the time, even there was people that thought that actually said, well, that's not my job. It's not my job. That's the promoter's job. Well, regardless,
It's only going to
whether it's
benefit
your
you. It's only going to
right.
benefit
Well,
you.
whether it's your job or not, just like I try to tell my guys that work for me now,
Mhm.
okay, that they'll say, well, why am I doing this? Well, okay, first of all, you're getting paid. Second of all, if you don't help me keep my business going, if my business goes out of business, you lose a job. No, it makes sense for you to want to help me keep my business going so you keep getting paid.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the way I look at it with the sport is, yeah, you're not getting paid to go advocate for the sport,
Mhm.
but you got to look at the future. You got to look at the big picture, because in the long run, you are essentially getting paid
Mhm.
because you're getting people to the track, which hopefully if you get enough people to the track and you get enough interest, that can bring the manufacturers back and that can make the sport grow. And then you got the people that, well, yeah, but that's not going to happen in my lifetime. Maybe not. But what if your kids want to race? What if your kids want to race?
Mhm.
How about you think of somebody other than just you and
Right.
think about down the road?
Well, and this is a microcosm of everything in life because no matter what you're talking racing or something else, job, whatever, you get out of it what you put into it. So if
Exactly.
you're going to do bare minimum, whether it's PR, whether it's, training, riding, bike prep, work, studying, whatever it is, if you do bare minimum, you're going to get bare minimum results.
Exactly.
If you go to the nth degree, you're going to get the best possible results for you, period. So
Right.
that's a microcosm of everything. The sport's better for it, for you doing all that stuff. The sport's better for it. And the sport's better because of you. There's no denying that.
Well, I appreciate that, and thank you for saying that. And I'll let you with one last piece of advice for the people out there, and you kind of brought this up in what you just said. Is, well, you get what you put into it for sure. It's in life in general. When it comes to your life,
So this is the way I see it, John. So if I get first or last, and this is what I tell parents, with their kids, and I'm sure you had this conversation with people too. But if you give everything you have, and whether you finish first or last, you should be able to go to sleep tonight feeling good that you did everything you could. Same with a test, same with work, same with whatever it is. If you give it your all, then you should sleep peacefully knowing you did everything. If you do
right,
bare minimum and then, you do shitty because of it, you should feel shitty because you did bare minimum.
right, you're 100% right. I agree with you 100%. And I kind of got back onto what I was going to say.
Okay.
Is there's so many people that look at successful people and they're, well, this guy needs to pay more taxes, or this guy needs to do this, or this guy needs to do that because he's making money. Well, here's the thing. Instead of hating on those people and being jealous of those people, hang out with them, be around them, make them your friends, because learn from them and say, hey, how'd you do it? Because 99% of these successful people will share how they became successful. And the biggest problem is most of the people that want to be like them don't want to do the work that they had to do to get it. Because you're not going to go anywhere in life, and you're not going to be great at anything in life unless you're willing to put in the work.
Mhm.
Because if you would rather sit on the couch at night and eat potato chips and play PlayStation and watch TV, that's all you're going to get out of it, like you said earlier. But if you want to be the best and you want to earn money and you want to have a business, hang out with those people. Go ask them, say, how'd you make your business? How'd you do this? And they'll teach you. They'll tell you. In fact, they might even want to bring you in. I'll tell you what, in my business right now, if somebody would come to me and ask me that, I'd be like, look, I'm going to give you a job right now.
Mhm.
You're going to be making good money, and I'm going to teach you how I did my business, and then you're going to help me run my business.
Mhm.
Because those are the kind of people that good businessmen are looking for, and women.
Absolutely. Amen to that, because we live in this world right now where everybody, and I think it's perfect. It's absolutely seamlessly connected to social media, that people say, well, so-and-so's doing this, and so-and-so has this, and so-and-so accomplished this, and this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, but that person, first of all, you don't know if it's as good as they're portraying it to be.
Right.
Second of all, that person, if they are accomplishing and reaping the benefits now, that means they grinded their ass off. And that's not where they were 10 years ago. They grinded their ass off. So now they are where they are, and people are jealous of them. When they had their head down and they were in the trenches and they were working their tail off, nobody was watching them, and they were still grinding away. And I think everybody, not to get too motivational here, but everybody that's listening right now, no matter what it is, this sport, whether it's your schoolwork, your job, relationships, whatever, like, do the extra, go the extra mile. And someday somebody, whether it's today or tomorrow or next week or next year, somebody's going to say, man, look where that guy is. Look where that girl is. Look what they accomplished. But you have to be willing to work when nobody's watching. And I think that that's some of what you were touching on.
That you're 100% right. And that's like now, like, our business is doing really well. And actually we got two businesses that are doing really well. Mm-hmm. And the thing that a lot of people don't know is right now I'm staying in a hotel. I was at work. We started work at 6:30 this morning. We worked till about 6:45 tonight, and went to my favorite place, which is Sheets, and got food and came to the hotel. And here I sit, because we're going to get up at 6:30 tomorrow, and we're going to do it all over again. This is my company. This is my company that's doing pretty well, and people don't see this part of it. Mm-hmm. They only see it, if I'm driving my new truck, or if I'm riding my dirt bike or whatever. Well, look at this, what he has. But yeah, I haven't seen my family in 4 days. And
you work your ass off for it. Work your ass off for it.
That's right. We work 60, 70 hours a week. So those are the things they fail to see.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that. John, I don't think that there could be a better way to end this. So, wrapping up everything that we talked about, you'll always be a fan favorite. The fans are going to love hearing from you again. I love this, because I feel like we tied up everything that we didn't get to in that first episode. I feel so good about this. I can't thank you enough for your time. You've been so gracious. It means so much to me. And pal, I appreciate it so much. I won't be able to tell you how much I appreciate this.
Well, listen, I love doing this kind of stuff, and I love advocating for the sport, and your podcast. It's awesome. What you're doing for the sport is great. So, if you just want me as a guest once in a while, or if you have more questions that come up, hell, let's go for a part 3.
Yeah, let's do it, John. So yeah, you've teased that you might be coming back to race maybe at some point, who knows? So if you come back, we're going to talk to you about every single lap that you do. Right. But even if you make it to a race again, let's bring you back on to talk about the race that you go to. Cause you see things, obviously, differently than the rest of us do, being a ATV racing legend like you are. So, let's definitely do that. We'll definitely get you back on sometime in the near future. But again, for all your time, whether it was, February 2020 or, October 2021, I can't thank you enough. I appreciate it so much. And obviously our listeners are appreciative too.
Not a problem at all. I appreciate you guys all being there.
Awesome. Well, thanks to Rocky Mountain ATV MC. Click that banner on our website for all your gear and parts needs, as well as to help us out. And John, allow me to wish you and your family all the best. Thanks so much for all you've done for the sport. Thanks for being a great role model for myself and so many others out there. Thanks one more time for all you've done and for doing this with me and everything else. And we'll plan on getting you on again soon. But all this time, man, it's been an absolute pleasure. I can't thank you enough.
Well, thanks, man. It's made my night special too. So I appreciate it.
Awesome. That's a wrap. Thanks so much.
All right, brother. Well, you have a good night. It was good talking with you.
Thanks so much, pal. Have a good night.
All right, buddy.
What did I tell you? Was it everything you hoped for and more? I sure thought it was. Major thanks to tonight's featured guest, Mr. John Natalie, legend. Thanks to producer Dallas Jansen, my brother, for all his hard work. Thanks to Brooke and AMA official Harv Whipple. Thanks to our donors. Remember, you can find those donation links on our website. We appreciate you guys so much who graciously donate. Thanks to our partners, CST Tires, shop.csttires.com, Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. I'm Team Blue Crew now, which is awesome. Stoked on that. Valvoline, SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Namura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Impact Solutions, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, Forworks Carbon, DP Brakes, Gripped Gloves, Factory 43, Bike Strikes and Quads LLC, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Support the brands that support our show, and don't forget to use those codes to save. You can find it all on our website, and be sure to click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner for all your gear and parts needs and to help us out. And most of all, thanks to you guys for listening. Our show merchandise, including Digging Deep shirts and hoodies, our Quad Guys Get Hot Chicks shirts and hoodies, back-to-back national champ merch, and more are all available at shop.diggingdeepatvmx.com today. As I mentioned, if you're looking for another easy way to help support us, visit our website and click the Buy Me a Coffee button. This allows you to set up a one-time or monthly contribution to support our efforts. Keep sending your questions, stories, and topics in. We're going to feature those on an upcoming episode, and don't hesitate to call into our voicemail line. To propose that to us, because we'd really like to play it on the show. That number is 920-569-3519. Do it. Also, you probably saw on social media, as I mentioned already in this episode briefly, Yamaha and I joined forces on a personal level, and we're going to cover the building of my race quads on the show here. So we're going to feature conversations about products and mods right here on the podcast. So for those of you who have been begging for more tech talk, you're really going to enjoy this. Speaking of social media, follow the show Digging Deep ATVMX podcast and myself, Cody Jansen, for additional content, coverage, and more fun stuff throughout the off season. As for the podcast, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and more. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. All episodes, additional podcast providers, sponsor links and discount codes, or show merchandise, fantasy info, and more can all be found on our website, diggingdeepatvmx.com, so check that out today. Be a friend, tell a friend, please download, subscribe, rate, review, and share. And with that, for John Natalie, Brooke Catherine, Dallas Jansen, and I'm your host, Cody Jansen, thanks for listening to the #1 podcast in ATV racing, 3 million downloads and counting. Until next time, thanks for joining us and digging deep with the stars of ATV Motocross. Things are crashing and burning here at the Digging Deep podcast, much like the Titanic.
Those guys were hauling ass, for real.
I remember watching Doug Gus, I don't know who it was, Steel City, running the same times Friday afternoon as James Stewart was on Sunday back then. It was mental. I've never seen quads go that fast.
Quad dudes are freaking gnarly.